This episode is perfect for those that want to break into strategy or just become a better strategist in the ad industry. And the goal of this show is to help you break in and thrive in advertising. We do that every single week by sharing the stories and advice of those rocking it on the other side. Our guest today has 45,000 LinkedIn followers, and he's a thought leader in the strategy realm. It is the head of strategy for Quality Meats, Joe Burns, ladies and gentlemen. Joe Burns is going to break it all down. I still struggle understanding what the hell strategy is, but he's going to teach us the different schools of thought, how he broke in, and how he would break in if he was just entering the industry today. Now on with the show. This is the Breaking and Entering Advertising Podcast, and as usual, I'm your accomplice, Gino Schellenberger. Kick it, Ellie. Joe Burns, welcome to the Breaking and Entering Advertising Podcast. This is going to be a fun one. We're rolling, right, Ellie?
Yes, sir.
We got the confirmation. We're going. You're a strategy influencer as well as a strategy lead at Quality Meats. How does that make you feel when I say that?
That's true. I think I coined the term LinkedIn sell to describe that, which is
LinkedIn sell?
yeah, like an incel.
Interesting.
I'm not an incel. Sorry. Yeah, I am. That was accidental though.
The kids were accidental?
It was accidental, actually. Yeah, I just started writing, and then one of the things I wrote, which I think I just got the timing really good, was about the 50th anniversary of planning, and that did really well. And then I started to make it. I thought, oh, there's more interesting ways of like wrapping up the information here, and started to like play a bit more in the world of visuals and design, and started making these carousels, and then a couple of them got really popular because I think I struck a kind of cultural nerve when things were happening, and then I got invited onto podcasts and some not even industry ones. I was on like the Planet Money podcast and stuff. So,
Really?
Yeah, I mean the less good of the Planet Money, not the big Planet Money, but like blah 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 from Planet Money. Well, it was still good, and I got to go to the office and saw a cup that Jodie Foster had drank out of. So
Interesting.
that was a highlight of my life.
Wow. When was that? When did you make that first post?
It was when it was actually relevant to my kids. It was when they're my second kid. I started making these things when I went on paternity leave for my second kid, because I had like 3 months of time to just, I don't know what I was going to do.
Right.
Other than see my newborn kid, which obviously I did a lot, but they sleep a lot, so you've got a lot of time still, even with the newborn.
You get 3 months.
I think it was about 12 weeks. I think publicists have got maybe it was 8 weeks. But it was a lot of weeks.
Is that a benefit of working at a holding company? Is that pretty standard?
Could be. I don't know. I've only had 2 kids.
Yeah.
And one of them I had when I was at Mother in the UK, and the other one I had when I was at BBH here. So and they were quite similar paternity policies.
Gotcha.
So if you're going to have a kid, change jobs to one of those agencies, maybe 9 months in advance.
It's a strategic move.
It is.
We've been trying to get this pod going for a while, and I think the last prep conversation we had, you blew my mind. Like just the way that you are curious about things, but you also we got into this conversation that I think is important for this show, is talking about like the next generation, and strategy is the field that I know the least amount. People ask me, how do I break into strategy? I tell people, go check out your carousels. That's like one way to think about it. Look at the portfolio schools like VCU Brand Center has really good kind of strategy portfolios from what I know. You had this take though, and I'll paraphrase, is basically that there's information is so easy to get nowadays. Like with search engines, with AI, you can find out any information. So it's no longer about information gathering. It's like, how do you package it up and put your spin on it? Am I paraphrasing correctly?
Yeah.
Do you remember this conversation?
I do. I think, no one's going to have a job just searching for stuff anymore. That's the one thing that I think AI is incredible at. You know what I mean? It's like searching and like combining information in a way that, that you want it. It's kind of like, I think AI is a misleading term for it, really, because it's not really intelligent. I would describe it as more like conversational computing. You know what I mean? It's like you just talk to it and say, oh, I want the information in this way, and it's really, really good at that. And I think a lot of jobs used to involve that kind of arbitrage of information. You know what I mean? There's a load of information out there, and I'm going to charge you for doing something with it because you don't have it in the format that you want it in. And like, I think that's a way a lot of people came into strategy. It would be like they'd start off in research or in analytics, or maybe they'd be like an account person who was particularly good at that kind of side of things, at crunching the information together, and then they get moved onto a strategy team. That's actually how I came into it, which I think we're going to talk about in a minute.
Yeah.
But like, I think nowadays, because of AI, I think there's way more value in being able to package up the information that you can gather into something that people find compelling, and sticky and interesting. And that's kind of how I got into, producing the carousels and stuff on LinkedIn. It was like, okay, as a kind of discipline, strategy makes all these different arguments about what good communication should be, right? So we'll be like, oh, it should be emotional, it should be single-minded, it should be, distinctive, right? So we say all this stuff, but we'll say it through a fucking presentation that's 150 slides long and looks like shit and goes on 1,000 different tangents. And it's like, is there anyone in the world, any discipline, less given to taking its own medicine than a strategist in an ad agency? So I was like, well, what if we applied those principles to the kind of ideas and thinking that strategy is? And that's kind of how I got into doing that. So yeah, I mean, I'm not saying the future of strategy is kind of me, but I am saying like that ability to apply the principles of strategy to the things you want to say, I think is becoming more and more important.
How do your presentations, internal agency presentations, like maybe you're kicking off a brief, do they look very similar to those carousels?
Yeah, and we do those kind of carousels and stuff for clients as well sometimes, especially in the new business process. It's like, I think PowerPoint has been one of the worst things to happen to society, full stop, in history. Got the Black Death and then PowerPoint, but like PowerPoint has been really, really terrible, and specifically in the creative industries and strategy as well. And the reason for that is it encourages people to get into this kind of mindset of like, oh, there's rules, you've got to have these points and bullet points and like the sequential way of thinking, and people like build these massive decks and whatever. And like, I think one thing we do really well actually at Quality Meets is we're quite open to how we get the points across and what kind of meetings we want to do when, and we tend to build, especially in that kind of new business process, I think we've got very, very good at building a way of working with the clients before they're even our clients that allows us to maybe outmaneuver some of the other agencies a little bit who probably stick to a little bit more of a traditional thing.
Yeah.
And part of that might be sending a 25 slide carousel style format that we need to tell them about a certain specific thing, or making our chemistry session look different, or whatever it is. But I think we've applied some of those principles of like, hey, and that really is strategy in its purest form, right? It's like saying like, what are the rules that everyone's playing by that aren't really rules and we don't need to play by? That's kind of my best ever description of strategy. It just popped into my head.
I love
on
that.
This, but it's like, what's the rules everyone else is playing by that we don't need to, because they're not really important rules?
My co-founder Jack Westerkamp, like when we're creating content and we're thinking about ways to go viral, and like he just kind of nixes that conversation right away. If we want to do a trend, he'll nix that conversation right away. He's like, I don't want to do anything like anybody else. Like, if you see a trend that you like that is out there, we shouldn't try to copy it. Like we're not algorithm hacking in a way. So I'm assuming you kind of have this kind of same.
I've got a very similar point of view on that actually. And the truth is, with anything like that, there's a time period in which you can benefit from the edge, as I would call it, or the advantage of it, right? So like, you guys could crack a new format, and I think in a way you kind of have with the content that Breaking and Entering produces. You guys can crack this new format. There's a time period before everyone else catches up, right? The market, in like economic terms, the market will eat up any competitive advantage eventually, because other people will try and copy it.
Yes.
So like, you kind of always need to be on your toes and doing new and different things. Yeah, that concept of edge is really fundamental to the way that I think about strategy.
So define the edge. So that's the competitive advantage by discovering something new, putting that out into the world.
So edge is something that you're doing or can do that other people aren't doing or can't do. So it's like, and this applies to, if you are a strategist, understanding that is really, really important, because it's like, you should be defining strategies for your clients and the brands that you work on that are designed to maximize the amount of edge. So like, find the things that are true of your brand that aren't true of the proposition, and then deploy them in communications to make your brand do something that other brands can't do.
Yeah.
You know, break rules that other brands aren't prepared to break, I think is a good way of thinking about it.
Yeah, and I'm trying to think of an example. I think, like, do you want to talk about the GoDaddy? I feel like that one did a pretty good job.
Yeah,
the Super Bowl spot, the lead up to that Super Bowl campaign, the unveiling of, like, what are these goggles?
Mm-hmm.
What's Walton Goggins doing? Like, is he actually going to be, is this a Super Bowl spot for his new goggles? And, like, that lead up, can you talk about how you guys kind of found that edge there, the insight behind it?
Yeah, and it's a really nice campaign, that is. I think so much of the different components of it came together really well. I think part of it was the clients, GoDaddy, have actually got a really solid internal creative department and creative team internally, and
That
we
helps.
came in as kind of a plus up. So, like, and Quality Meats is really good at working with those clients who've got kind of creativity baked in, and we can kind of come in as a, you know, a boost to what they can do internally naturally.
Which is probably the future of, like, what ad agencies are going to be, because it seems like these in-house, or like these it's more of like these like the pair ups, like
Yeah.
agencies are now going to have to pair up with the strategist within
Indeed.
within
Indeed.
the brand.
And anyway, so they came to us, and, like, they already had an insight and an idea of where they wanted the brief to go, and their brief was all about confidence, right? It was like this new product, GoDaddy Aero, a suite of AI tools that help you make a cooler, better website and market the product and do all the things that you do if you're an entrepreneur. And yeah, they were like, okay, it makes small business owners more confident. And, like, as a strategist, I could have just dialed that in. Do you know what I mean? Because, like, let's be honest, it's like, that's good enough to get the creatives going. Our creatives are actually very good. So you can give them a kind of crappy brief and they'll get somewhere good with it. But this was a Super Bowl spot, so I didn't want to be too lazy. So I took the brief from the clients.
Yeah.
And then we started exploring their internal insights work that they'd done and looking through transcripts of interviews that were with small business owners and, like, talking about what they like about the product. And I think the direct quote came from one of those things. It was like, you make me feel like I'm nailing it, even if I feel a little bit like I'm faking it. And I think you just, like, a big part of strategy is just intuition and being like, oh, that's good. So, like, I think I just took my red pen and circled that, and the brief then that we gave to the creatives was like, GoDaddy Aero makes small business owners feel like they're nailing it even if they're faking it.
Love.
And, like, then the whole campaign kind of, like, built from that. So it's like, I think it shows how the journey of a process can go from, like, clients have got something which is a great foundation and start point. They've got internal insight work. As a strategist, you kind of, like, you're really just pushing out all the noise and going, forget about everything else and just focus on this one thing here. And then the creatives can go and do something amazing. I think they really elevated that insight to an amazing campaign. Because we committed to the bit. Ultimately, It's like the goggles were launched 2 months, 3 months in advance, so it was, like, far enough away that people wouldn't necessarily, oh, that's a Super Bowl spot. You know what I mean? Oh, it's Snoop Dogg, it's a Super Bowl spot. You know what I mean? Like, so we avoided that. And when I talk about edge, I think the edge we had there is like, okay, we've got all these transcripts from the customers, so, like, that's a place that we know the competition can't look, which is only really Squarespace, let's be honest, or Wix. But, like, we've got these transcripts, and then, like, a certain degree of, like, willingness to commit to the bit that I think we all felt that the competition wouldn't do. So, like,
That was agreed upon by the client. They were willing to commit, you're saying, into the bits.
They came in and they said, like, you know, we want to go really, really big with this campaign, and, like, we want this to be mega and massive and super cool. And we're like, great, we're writing that down and we'll hold you to that.
I was going to ask, yeah. So when you clean up the brief and you send it to the internal creative teams of your agency, do they need to get approval on that?
Depends.
Do they see
it depends
that?
on the thing, and I think you have to be a bit flexible as a strategist, because sometimes the client brief comes in and you're like, oh, this is not going to lead to good work, you know. So then maybe you engage the clients in a way where you're like, okay, you guys think it's this, but what about this cool thing over here?
And that's is that the brief then you're showing, like the insight, or do you actually show the work with that?
I mean, it depends on the client.
Of course.
I think I'm a great believer in, like, you've got to have a toolbox of different ways of thinking and doing things, and, like, being able to flex to work with different clients. And that's, like, so multifaceted that some clients just there's whole ideologies of how marketing works, and like if you're a true believer in one of them yourself, you're never going to be able to work with a client that works in a different way.
Right.
So I think a big part, and this isn't necessarily as important when you're a junior, but like I think as you get more senior in your strategy career, understanding those different, I call them ideologies.
What are some of those? It's like the Byron Sharp.
Exactly, yeah. Exactly.
How brands grow.
Yeah.
Can you summarize that one?
So Byron Sharp would be like, I'd call that like the distinctiveness.
Yes. And like, is that the gateway one? Like there's
category entry points.
Yes.
Yeah. Which is like part of it, but that's all like that ideology says people don't really give a fuck about brands. They just use them as a shortcut to they reach for the packet on the shelf that they've got the vague memory of in their head. It's like, so you want to do jingles, brand characters, you want to have a logo that's bright orange and easy to spot.
Ritson kind of talks about that. He has a great clip. It's like you have to run your campaigns for 2 years. You have to have distinctive assets, and you can't really you can't switch it up.
So that's one. Another one might be brand purpose. People buy brands that have got a bigger societal purpose, and I think the Big Ideal, maybe that was Ogilvy like 10 years ago, came out with that. And like brand purpose is another ideology. And then there's another ideology which would be like, I don't know, you could take the kind of like resonance model of like, human emotional instincts resonate with people and people buy from brands that are like them, and there's all these different ways of thinking. There's some which I like, and there's some which I really don't like.
Which ones do you not like?
I really don't like the model which says that marketing and creativity and advertising is about addressing barriers. Because that to me, I just don't think it feels intuitively true. So like that kind of barrier address mindset of how marketing and creativity work. So that would be something.
Barrier. So which school does this fall into?
Well, that's its own kind of school, really.
Okay, so it's a barrier.
It says like, so it'd be like, Joe doesn't buy our brand of breakfast cereal because he thinks it's unhealthy. So we need to go and create communications that convince him to think it's healthy. Do you get what I mean? So
yes, like, so problem solution.
Solution. I just don't think advertising works like that at all.
Interesting.
But
because if they already don't, why is that? Like, because you're not going to convince people?
I think people just don't really give a shit about brands or advertising, to be honest with you.
So you like the Ritson / Byron Sharp approach.
I have some issues with it. I think it maybe is a bit too formulaic and reductive sometimes, but like I'm a bit more mercenary in that I'll use whatever it takes to get the job done.
Yeah, you got to
change on category to category basis. Like if you're selling a car, in my opinion, there's way more to it than distinctiveness. Like, you know what I mean? Like you can say something about, like Volvo do a great job of being associated with safety. Yeah. So like I think you can say things. It's not just like people choose Volvo because they remember the logo. So like I do think like the reason is everyone wants to sell a book or like sell a course or sell a thing. So they want to say, I've got the one version of how this all works, the Bible of marketing. And like I think if you're a good strategist, you'll see them all for what they are. Relevance is another one. Brand relevance is another one that if you look at Apple have done a brand relevance strategy, right? They've done a really good job and they lock you into an ecosystem. And like, if I get a new phone, I ain't even thinking about getting anything but an Apple iPhone.
You don't want those green text bubbles.
It's not that. It's just that all my other stuff works. I've got Apple AirPods and stuff.
It seems like that's also how they product designed and they created that whole ecosystem and the extensions there. So brand relevance, how would you define that?
That one's about making the competition irrelevant. It's a terrible name. David Aker came up with this idea of brand relevance. And I wrote an essay on this actually. But like originally brand relevance was the idea of what you want to do is just basically push everyone else out the consideration set. So like Apple's the best example of this. It's like remember that I'm a Mac, I'm a PC?
Yeah, that was in our fucking trivia.
So like that's a great... Really,
what agency made that?
Oh, I'm going to guess it was TBWA, right?
Yeah, you got one out of 5. Let's get a new trivia question in there. We'll replace that one. But yes, that one is a great example of brand relevance, you're saying? Because it pushed them out?
Because that was the start of it. But also then if you look at the product portfolio of Apple's products, they all work with each other and really suck if you're using anything but Apple. So like, if you want to do brand relevance, you've really got to commit to it and like do a lot of stuff beyond just creative media buy advertising.
Right.
What's great, I think, about the Byron Sharp model is is that it's like, you don't need an organization that's willing to commit to the bit. You know what I mean? You can just go, okay, if you're a CMO and like you haven't got a hope in hell of changing the product or doing anything to do with it, which is unfortunately the case for a lot of CMOs these days. They've been disempowered. If that is the case and all you can do is make ads and spend money on putting the ads in media, then yeah, distinctiveness is probably the best tool.
I would love to see like a flow chart of your thinking of like.
I could give you one. I'll make one. I'll do one over
Yeah,
the next
yeah.
few months.
It's like you're dealing with this. Like if you're dealing with this client, can you change the product? No. Then try this.
Yeah, and I
philosophy.
think the truth is, what you eventually get to, and I think this is why pitches are so much fun and interesting, is it's the one time where you've probably got someone who's open-minded enough to kind of put a punt in on how you think you should do it.
Mm-hmm.
So you can walk into a pitch, and we've done this recently with a couple of brands that converted actually, where we've gone in and just said like, okay, you're in this particular type of category or this particular type of business challenge. This is the best way to approach your advertising. So we kind of pulled the curtain back a little bit on the different ideologies and kind of said, look, this is where your brand's at right now. You need advertising that does this kind of thing, and we're experts in how to do that. Let's work together, and we'll then build that campaign with each other. You know what I mean? And
yeah.
Like, it's a very different way to, I think, how traditionally agencies approach pitches, which is like, okay, we got your brief, and we're gonna tell you the answer because you've given us the thing. We're going to give you what you want. Whereas I think what we did was kind of elevated the thing strategically and instead said like, okay, we got your brief. It's really interesting, but let's zoom up a bit. Actually, you're all about distinctiveness or whatever it is, and then change, like elevating the discussion a little bit. And I think the clients liked it. So.
Yeah, it shows that you understand them. It's and they're more likely to probably want to use it.
Yeah. And maybe this is getting into a bit more of a philosophical thing. Sorry, I'm fiddling with your mic.
I was prepared for philosophical conversation.
But yeah, I just think like people in general, they've got this real issue. Maybe it's because they've been disempowered or the way that the world works these days. But people just don't want to like seize the initiative. And I'm a great believer in like strategy. Your job is to be the initiative seizer. You know what I mean? And it's a bit like, client might send you a brief. Number one task you have is to like grab that brief. And if it's not what's right to do, is to say like, hold on a minute. Like, you say you want these things, but there's a better way to do this. Or there's a different way to think about this. And then like, you know, it's a bit like the momentum of things. And this is something that's always kind of I've struggled with a lot is, I was at Mother in London for 10 years of my career. And what Mother were amazing at is like gaining the initiative in the relationship with the clients. So like, you know, they'd force you as a employee to be always thinking proactively in order to generate that forward momentum. Because the last thing you want to be as an ad agency is reacting to what clients, and like anyone who's worked on a really, really shit client will tell you the reason it sucks is because there'll be someone senior on your team getting texts from someone senior on the client's organization. And every time a text comes through to your boss, whoever that might be, everything then just starts swirling because you're in this reactive thing where you're reacting to what's being sent to you. The opposite is also true. When you're on a really good client, working with them really well, you're the ones generating the forward momentum, proactively directing where that brand's going to go. And like,
you're texting them, hey, we got this idea. We're thinking about this.
Yeah, your boss is texting them saying, hey, check this out. It's one of those carousels that I make, and we send that over. And
right.
Like, and I think that's something that's what separates, in my head, great agencies, talent, people from the rest. It's like the ability to be generating forward momentum rather than reacting to what's being told by someone else.
And that's what we're trying to do. I felt like in our first year of business, we were really reactive. Like when we started this thing up, like what opportunities like are coming our way, like, or this new thing popped up, we have to do something. But now in this second year, we're trying to be more proactive and put the things that we want out in the world.
Yeah.
So it's hard to do.
You're doing a good job with it as well.
Thanks, man.
You emailed me about this, so that was proactive.
Hell yeah. So how do you break into this business? There's a couple ways of looking at this. How did you break in, and how has it changed today? Like how can our listeners, maybe somebody that wants to be a strategist, like where do they even start?
I'll give you mine. So I started off in the world of media. actually. I was in a media agency initially.
Which one?
Zenith Optimedia.
Yeah, it's
now
Publicis
now.
Yeah.
In London. Before that, I worked in like digital marketing-y fashion type roles. So I graduated at the really shitty like Great Recession graduate intake. So like I was living on like sofas and fucking shit like that for
Did you know you wanted to be in an ad agency, or was it just, did you fall into it?
To be honest with you, I've always known I wanted to do something kind of creative, you know, like, or I just like thinking about stuff, you know, to be honest.
What did you study?
I studied semiotics at university.
Really?
So yeah, I've actually found out started off doing like American literature. And then when I was there, I took a couple of modules in the semiotics thing. I was like, this is fucking great. I'm gonna do this instead. So I did. I switched courses. But like, yeah, I graduated at a terrible time. Then I was working in a fashion kind of online retailer and hated that. And eventually, like a friend of mine from university was like, oh, we're doing grad intake again. They'd paused it for like 2 years. And I got a job in a media agency in the international team. And the job sucked, if I'm honest with you. I was like a grad in I mean, it didn't suck entirely because like people would just be buying you constant booze.
Yeah,
so it was kind of amazing.
In media, the vendors really take care of you. It's awesome. I was in media for an internship.
But like,
job sucks.
Yeah, the job sucks.
Job sucks, but like you get lunches and people bring you stuff all the time.
Yeah, so that was great. But my job essentially involved like collecting reports from fucking all the different countries in the world and then compile them into a bigger report. And yeah, it was meant to take like, I had like 2 to do a month and each one would take 2 weeks of like solid thing.
How fast could you do that with AI today?
Well, here's the thing, man. I basically like, I just use like Excel macros and like automate the whole thing.
Nice.
So I turned like what was meant to take me a month into like 4 or 5 hours of work.
Nice.
And
but you don't tell them that.
Exactly.
Yeah,
exactly.
You would never ever tell them that you optimized. I'm looking at these 2 employees here. If you figure out a way to optimize and you're taking your sweet time, I'm find out.
Yeah, like I didn't tell him. I didn't tell my manager. I told the people I wanted to work with, which was the comms strategy team. So I was like, hey guys, I've just managed to automate my job and I don't want to do more boring stuff. So can I use that time helping you guys out? And they were like, how'd you do it? I was like, oh, just Excel, macros, formulas, you know, that kind of thing. They were like, yes, definitely you can. Let's build some econometric models. Let's do some budget setting tools. So I was just like building tools for the comm strategy department on Excel. And then eventually we ended up working with Mother on HTC, and then they poached me because they wanted a comm strategy guy. And then I started doing brand strategy there, and then I kind of hybrided and did both. So like that was my journey in. And I think like you can't really get many specifics out of it, but I think general rules are just like weasel your way in through the back door, get noticed for doing cool stuff. I think there's more access. Like if you were a junior today, I'd be like, start Substack or start sharing stuff on LinkedIn or start producing content that appeals to the people whose job you want, basically.
Yes.
There you go.
I love that.
You can edit out the if you want.
Do that again. That sounded good. Yeah. Ellie's got the headphones on. She can hear that. Yeah. Yeah. The idea of like going in the back door, like, what if somebody doesn't really want to do that? What if they want to go right into strategy? Because our audience tends to get people that know they want to be in ad agencies. Yeah. How would you fast track it if you had to start all over again today?
If it was me, if I was a young sprite.
Yeah, you just graduated university. And you want to work at Mother or Quality Meats.
I'm sitting young me down. I'd be like, just make something good. Like you've got AI, you've got these publishing platforms, you can make cool stuff, and you can probably do cooler stuff than what an ad agency can do. Like no ad agency is going to hire you if they
can do it.
They can do it. Yeah. So like you need to be doing something that they can't do.
Yes.
So like go and do that.
It was the macros for you.
Exactly. Originally it was the macros, and then like. And I think that's the thing. It's like the worst thing you can say is like, I'm really curious. I really want to learn. Worst. And you're just like,
it's the worst.
I don't want to teach you that. If I did, I'd be a lecturer at VCU Brand Centre, like, and getting paid to teach you to do stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas I want to pay you to do stuff. So anyway, Point being, like, don't go in with this idea of like being curious and wanting to learn is a good thing. It's not. Go in there and be like, no one else can do this, and I can. Do you want to pay me, and I'll do it for you? Like, that's the attitude you kind of need to have.
I love that. Let me look at some of these general questions as well here. So we kind of went through the biggest opportunities, risk of AI. You talked about GoDaddy. I think this last kind of question that I have for you is, how do you convince clients or teams to see design as a fundamental part of solving business problems rather than just an execution?
Yeah, I think it's really important these days. Like, if you look at, like, people say people's attention span is decreasing, which I don't think is scientifically true. But people have certainly got a higher threshold of interest needed before they pay attention to things. So people are less likely to notice boring stuff than they were because of the visual competition. And likewise, brands and like creative commercial content is consumed in smaller and smaller chunks. So like, you need to find as many shortcuts into what you're trying to say as possible. Ultimately, it's like there's way less scope to rationally explain stuff. So you need to lean into whatever tools you can in order to get the thing you want to say across or get the brand idea across. And like, design is all about that. You know what I mean? It's all about communicating something in teeny tiny spots. So like, I think really it's not necessarily about convincing clients to just do that. It's just like making sure that it's really, the design is upfront in the process. And like, you're saying, okay, you're going to exist in this massive, giant, complicated media plan of all these different touch points. Like, how is that going to be coherent? Now, you could say, well, we're going to use the tagline on everything and we're going to put the logo on everything. And it's like, yeah, but then you've used up 50% of the real estate that you've got to play with. So you need something that works as more of a shortcut. And I think this is one of those things where, like, I'm not someone who's like, oh yeah, young people are so good and old people are all idiots. But I do think the younger people, I think, intuitively get this maybe a little bit more than people who are like in their late 30s, 40s tend to do these days. I think, like, if you look at how people engage with the digital world or the real world even, I think if you look at like younger cohorts, they're much more in tune with like aesthetic codes and what aesthetics mean and like castle core and all that stuff.
Yeah.
And like, I think that's really like, it shows that they're a more visual generation and more visual thinker. I'm a visual thinker anyway. I'm not really that much of a rational thinker. You know what I mean? Like, I think in like visually and music and things like that. More abstracted. I like abstraction a lot. So like, it comes really naturally to me. Whereas like, it probably makes me weird amongst strategists because I think a lot of them are the opposite. You know what I mean? Like, they think in very structured. And I really struggle with structure, I think. So like, I like abstraction. So for me, it feels natural, but it sometimes can be difficult to explain those things to people. So it's a fair question.
Yeah. So it's like the distinctive assets again, kind of like, but visually appealing across these touch points.
Yeah, man. But look at this thing behind you, right? Now, if you were like an ultra of like the distinctive assets thing, you'd be like, no, only use one of them. You know what I mean? But yeah. I think you benefit from the playfulness of having the different things. To me, that's like, that shows like more potency in the brand that Breaking and Entering is building there, because you're able to play around with the logo and do different things with it. Like MTV used to do this amazing, for anyone old enough to remember the MTV like blap type things that would come up, and it like they'd use different aesthetics on the same thing, and that it's a very postmodern way of thinking.
Yeah, Mo Saeed had an interesting take on logos. I don't remember exactly. It's like, don't be so precious about them. Like, they can play around. Like, they don't have to last like 15 years anymore.
Indeed.
I love it. Well, Joe, how can people follow you on LinkedIn, right? That's the way to do this, to get in touch and to check out your stuff.
I'm like really bad at telling people no.
That's great for our listeners.
Yeah, I'm terrible at being like, oh no, I can't do that, I'm too busy. So I'll be like, yeah, but like, I'll put you at the back of the queue, so speak to you in 6 weeks time.
Yeah.
But like, the best way to catch me is like, just send me a message on LinkedIn, and like, if I forget to reply, then just message me again.
Keep going.
Yeah, pester me, because like, I'm not like saying, like, I'm not ignoring anyone. I'm too polite, I think, to do that.
Yeah. I was more so they can just get inspired and know like
Oh.
what your flip book is. But if you're saying they can reach out to you, you said it, not me.
Definitely
That's
do
great.
that, yeah, and like the thing I would say is like, never take anyone too seriously, especially not me, about like what the right way is to do strategy or anything like that. Like, just do, you know what I mean? Like, I think the truth is, it's just like, fuck what I think. What do you think? Is like my kind of attitude with all this. It's like, I know what I think, so I don't need you to tell me that. But like, I am really, really interested in what you think, but I'm not really interested in what you think other people think. You know what I mean? It's like, I want that kind of like, so like, don't just copy what I do or take what I say as gospel. Like, you can have a point of view, even if you've just started. You could look at the industry and be like, oh, well, this is kind of dumb. You know what I mean? Like,
And that's great.
And I think that's
talk
fun.
about it. Like you're saying, put that perspective out there in some way.
Yeah, man. Yeah, 100%. Get your perspective out there. You might look back on it in 10 years' time, like, I was a fucking idiot when I said that. But like, it's the nature of growing old.
Yeah. You got to cringe at your past self that shows that you're growing.
100%.
Joe, well, thank you so much for coming on, sir.
Thank you, man. Pleasure.
Nicely done.